needed to be doing this, and so we're here, and Beth will be joining any second now, and we look forward to this discussion that we're having. Uh, we are looking forward to the discussion that we are having. Yes, and there we are on Twitter. So we are here on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and you are on Call to Reasons, CTR on the side, special Friday edition. Too much happening today that we had to cover. Although I have a feeling Sunday's radio show will be nearly entirely devoted uh, to just really two topics. Hey, Beth. Awesome. Good to have you with us. Whoo! Well, Beth, everybody knows me. I'm a pretty humble guy, and very rarely do I like to gloat. I try to avoid that kind of behavior. It's uncouth and uncivilized. But I can tell you that if I've ever been able to say I told you so, and feel good about it. If I've ever been able to say I told you so and feel good about it, it was when I woke up this morning at 6:30 a.m. and looked at my telephone. It was almost a preview, like the scene from the movie that I was telling you about, where I see Trump, resigning. It was almost seen like that. I wake up first thing this morning. I look on my phone, and the top three alerts are from various news sources saying that Roger Stone has been perp walked out of his house by the FBI. Uh, okay. And I've been saying that. And I've been saying that. Okay. But it looks like a hit. I hit it out of the park. That's a perfect statue. I hit it out of the park. And as I've been saying all along, and Beth, this is a special, if you're just joining us, this is a special Friday edition of Call to Reasons, CTR on the side. This is our podcast in conjunction with our weekly radio broadcast that we have on KTRC Talk 1260 and 1037 here in Santa Fe and on santafe.com. That's all over the world also. But we welcome you here. It's our special Friday. I'm calling it our Four Fingers Friday edition because I had to pour a big one. This is Four Fingers Friday because listen, folks, Roger Stone has indeed been indicted, as I predicted he would be many times, that he would be at the bottom. Because if you listen, as I've said many, many times, to how his rhetoric literally comes from his brain out of Donald Trump's mouth, the same way it came out of W. Bush's mouth, H.W. Bush's mouth, Reagan's mouth, Ford's mouth, and Nixon's mouth. Roger Stone has been the puppet master of presidential languaging for years, and the idea of the border wall itself was hatched by Roger Stone and Sam Nunberg. Donald Trump was very reluctant, very sour on the idea, didn't think it was a good idea, didn't think it would go anywhere. And it was only after he saw the reaction to it that he realized they were right. And so Roger Stone is a proud political trickster. He's a proud master of misinformation. He is the Lord of lies, and he has lied to the wrong folk about the wrong stuff. 5 counts of false statements to Congress, and 1 count of obstruction of justice, and 1 count of witness tampering, all associated with questions related to potential collusion with WikiLeaks and the Russians to expose Hillary Clinton's emails or Podesta's emails, and they've got him dead to rights. And his public denials and the confidence with which he's given those public denials, the certainty with which he's given the denials, the indignation that he's expressed while giving those denials have all been the exact opposite of what has been in the indictments. And let me tell you something, Mueller is batting 1,000. If he indicts your ass, you're going to jail. It's not like you're going to stand trial and get off. If Mueller indicts you, you are going to jail. And keep in mind, he's indicting people still, but we know that Roger Stone's tip of the iceberg. They interviewed several Roger Stone associates. We know now that the what's that guy's name? Jeffrey Corbin. You know what I'm talking about. He's back in play now. He's back in play, and. Mm-hmm. Now it says I'm not connected to the internet, but obviously I am. Yeah. We'll look it up. So yeah, the one of the things that happened today that in these indictments, in terms of interfering with witnesses, is that the guy I think that you're talking about, threatened his dog and the Corsi, Jerome Corsi. With Jerome Corsi, that's it, with bodily harm. Mm-hmm. And so that seems to be probably the most. It's pretty serious when you lie to Congress too, but you know that Mueller has all of that fact checked, and he's got the receipts for all of these charges. So right. I think it's pretty certain that he's probably going to be found guilty. The big question now that you and I were discussing earlier today is if we believe if he's going to start singing or not. Well, I mean, have you moved since our conversation? Well, let me frame my position. Okay. All right. First of all, I have to give credit where credit is due. Okay? I've always known who Roger Stone was, but I never paid attention to who Roger Stone was until our good friend and our number one president of the Atlanta Call the Reason fan club, Lance Robertson, suggested to me a while back when it first came out that I should watch this documentary, Get Me Roger Stone, on Netflix. Oh, yeah. I watched it again today. So as did I. So Lance turned me on to it, and after I watched it, the movie did such a great job at pointing out how presidents literally have just taken verbatim the words from Roger Stone and incorporated into their own talking points. But I go a step further with Trump to say that he not only has incorporated Roger Stone's talking points, but he's incorporated Roger Stone's mafia-style operating methods. Right. And deny, and then deflect and blame others. And so when we look at the fact that in Beth, I'm still waiting on someone to point out, and I shut down cult members every single time when they start telling me about how Trump is being mischaracterized, how he's being attacked, how he's being lied on, how fake news is making stuff up. I mean, I shut him down every time by just asking this simple question. Name one incident where Donald Trump was accused in a scandal where his initial explanation for any of it turned out to be what actually happened. To this day, you cannot cite any of these scandals. Not the porn stars, not the Playboy models, not the lying to Congress. You can't point out any of these things that Donald Trump, his initial feedback turned out to be reality. And just like with Michael Cohen, now they're saying, well, Michael Cohen, I never told Michael Cohen a lot of Congress. When the evidence comes out that he did, and it's like a tape or something, like because Donald Trump keeps denying stuff about Michael Cohen, like all of us have forgotten that Michael Cohen notoriously taped everyone. Everything that Mueller, I mean, anyway, I don't want to digress. What I can say is this. I believe that Roger Stone is doing the same thing, and if we look at how Roger Stone handled today, and we look at what led up to today, all his statements about this leading up to today, Beth, you know what I've concluded. What I've concluded simply is that Roger Stone, we know he flatly denied everything that's in this indictment. He said the exact opposite. He said he was never involved. WikiLeaks, he had no connection with WikiLeaks, no collusion with WikiLeaks, no contacts with them. Now contacts have been proven. Contacts with him as the bridge between WikiLeaks and the Russians and the Trump campaign has been elaborated, and so although he's been talking very tough as recently as today, saying he would never, ever, ever testify or say anything against Donald Trump. Let me tell you something. He can talk a good game, and he can keep doing that because he's trying to build up Trump for a pardon. But what I can tell you is that Roger Stone is in his 70s, and he's looking at 7 indictments. If found guilty on even 2 of them, he's talking about the rest of his life in prison. And I don't think Roger Stone is hard enough for that. I think he's too soft, too spoiled, too pampered, too privileged to give it all up. And his little Cuban pool boys down there in Miami, where he lives in the Fort Lauderdale area. Listen, I just don't think that he's going to give it up, and I think he will do ultimately when they lay down the evidence in front of him to say, it doesn't matter what you say about Trump at all. We got you dead to rights. I think then he is going, and when he realizes that whether he ever says anything about Trump at all or not, when that becomes irrelevant and he realizes the reality that him saying anything about Trump is irrelevant, he can posture all he wants because he already knows that whatever he says about Trump is irrelevant. They already have all the goods. And so now he's got an angle to just try to get a pardon from Trump. So he's giving up all this Trump kiss-ass talk simply to get Trump in a mood to pardon him because he knows that anything he can say about Trump, they already know.
I think the whole strategy is about him getting pardoned. Mm-hmm. And I also think that I don't think he's soft, actually. I think he's willing. The man works out every day. I think that he is like the Gordon Liddy type who's just like, I'm not going to swill on anyone. Okay, so I'm going to read you a couple quotes that he said, like from his rule book in the movie today. One of them was, "It's better to be infamous than never be famous at all." And then the second thing, at the end of the movie, he says, "A man is never defeated until he quits." And I think that there is nothing that Roger Stone would like more than to never quit, to go to jail and be a Trump martyr. And he'll still have like his little parade of Kool-Aid drinkers, Trump Kool-Aid drinkers. He'll be their hero. He'll go to jail saying, "I'm going to jail for what I believe in," when he's actually going to jail because he's a
criminal. Right.
Right. But
Mm-hmm.
And if so long as that's the case, so long as he has like this strange sort of cadre of supporters, and it's very likely that Trump will pardon. Trump could pardon him now, really, if he wanted to. But if it looks like Trump is getting arrested and that he's going to whatever's happening between now and 2020,
Mm-hmm.
my feeling is that Trump is going to have an opportunity to pardon Roger Stone.
Well,
and if it looks like Trump is guilty of something, he'll probably do it.
well,
That's
let me tell you something. He better hurry up because you know, these kinds of things create avalanche effects that always end up manifesting fully faster than you know you would think. Like we've been getting this Chinese water torture, drip, 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 all these 2
Well,
years.
there's so much more, Loveless. And I was listening to an interview with Sam Nunberg today,
Mm-hmm.
who is closely related to all of these folks and
Right.
is a Trump person. And he was questioned by Mueller, and he said, "This is just the beginning because we haven't even gotten to Trump Tower meeting yet with the Russians, so we haven't even gotten to the the campaign finance charges and things like that." And essentially, he said, "This is just part of it. It's not all of it." And the other thing is,
We haven't gotten to
there's
the. We haven't even.
there's a big possibility that perhaps Mueller hasn't been able to link the Trump campaign with WikiLeaks and therefore Russia on this part, but maybe can do. I mean, obviously there's a Trump link already with Russia with that meeting at Trump Tower, and so we don't know, and maybe there are more charges against Roger Stone that are being held back because of the other people that they want to indict, or maybe they're holding some back because they are hoping that Roger Stone will sing, but I don't think he will.
I believe he may or may not. You know, because I talked myself out of my original position because I really think that again, the way this whole thing is going to go down, I don't think Mueller would have pulled the trigger on an indictment unless he was absolutely certain he had convictions in the bag.
Yeah,
And I don't think that he needs this indictment to use as a pressure point in order to glean or gain information from Roger Stone about Donald Trump. And so I don't know that he'll ever even ask him for any information about Donald Trump until after he has convicted him of enough crimes to put him away for, 20 years past the rest of his life, such that he will then have to, going to jail is one thing, Beth. Dying in jail is something different. And Roger Stone is going to have to face his own mortality. Is he ready to die for Donald Trump? Perhaps he is if he's already, say, for example, terminally ill. He could, in my mind, I'm thinking this could be also because maybe Roger Stone has some sort of terminal illness and 6 months to live or a year to live. And now he's going to go out as a political martyr because he knows he's going to die anyway. Might as well die somewhere where he can relax and get the best medical treatment money can buy in federal prison for free. So who knows what his motivation is, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna know what happens as we move forward. Obviously, because this is going to move forward, and we don't know which other Roger Stone associates are also caught up in this in the Robert Mueller dragnet surrounding Roger Stone. We don't know if Sam Nunberg is going to be caught up. We do know that Sam Nunberg is definitely a softie and will sing like a canary at Carnegie Hall.
I think he already has. And who
Mm-hmm.
I think Mueller would have dragged him. He would have been one of the first, and I think that they're on top of that totem pole with Trump's attorney Michael Cohen, and now like Trump's longtime friend and political advisor. I mean, it's it's not like these people are like low totem pole types of operatives. These are all people high up in Trump's circle. Let's move to the government shutdown vote that happened today.
Well, before we do that, before you do that, let me just thank everybody for being here. This is a special Friday edition of Call to Reason CTR on the side. We're covering just two issues tonight that were historic and groundbreaking. One was the indictment of Roger Stone, and just to recap, 7 counts, 5 of making false statements to Congress, 1 witness tampering, and 1 obstruction of justice. It's going to be interesting. He got a $250,000 bond, so he's at home, but the FBI raided his place. They taped it off. They raided all his properties and stuff. They did the same thing they did to Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort. The process is going along textbook Mueller. And Beth, the only other thing I want to say about that is that now Mueller is beginning to build that bridge across the ocean between Russia and America. He's already had 2 sets of indictments of Russians. 1 round of Russian companies back in February of last year, and then over the summer a round of Russian individuals, mostly Russian intelligence officers. So now he's pieced together who was involved in the collusion on the Russian side, and now he's starting to piece together who was involved with collusion on the American side. And this is the first smoking gun indictment, if you will, of a person directly involved in activities associated with, trying to sway the election for Donald Trump by working with foreign resources. And so it's interesting that none of the indictments included collusion or conspiracy to defraud America, which is like the legal term for collusions, conspiracy to defraud America. So this would be. It begs the question to me whether or not there will be additional indictments forthcoming. If these indictments, the lying to Congress, the witness tampering, the obstruction of justice, are just the tip of the iceberg, and will there be other indictments coming after now that they've gathered enough, or they got enough to say, okay, we now have enough for a search warrant to be able to go in and kick Roger Stone's door down and grab all his shit before he can shred anything or destroy any evidence, and we can do a single sweep. No, because you watched the movie, you've seen his playbook: deny, deflect, misinformation. His arrogance has I think is going to be his downfall. I really do think that he talked it up in the media so much that I think he thought he was intimidating Mueller, that he had won the court of public opinion, and then Mueller would just back down or look elsewhere. And I think Mueller is such a surreptitious operator that he's been so quiet and clandestine that I think Mueller's silence has lulled Roger Stone to sleep. And perhaps he did destroy some evidence, but listen, this is the same playbook that was with Manafort, same playbook with Cohen, same way the FBI was involved, and now they got him dead to rights. And I don't know that he's going to want to sit in prison literally until he dies, guaranteed. without being able to do something to save himself from that ultimate fate. Again, unless he, of course, he's terminally ill or something and he already is dead. You don't call the reason CTR on this.
Another like last little tidbit of information about this that's
Okay.
been circulating around on Twitter today
Okay.
is there's been some I guess criticism about Mueller and the FBI going with their guns drawn and breaking down Roger Stone's door. And
well, they didn't break it down. They just banged on it really hard.
saying that he would have turned himself in. And then I heard Joanne Banks, who was part of the team that was prosecuting Nixon, she was saying that the reason why they do that is to catch people by surprise so that they don't have an opportunity to destroy any evidence that might be in there. I mean, and even Chris Matthews tonight was just saying, yeah, I don't think that it's right to embarrass people or whatever. And my feeling is, and normally I'm very much a civil rights kind of person when it comes to the police dealing with people fairly. But if you have a prosecution who has like a string of people that they're going after, and they have enough evidence to prosecute, and I don't think that Mueller would even be pursuing this unless he had evidence because it's so politically charged. I don't understand. I mean, I think that if he was using, A, this opportunity to seize all of the evidence, but B, to show people we're not playing and you're on our list of people we're going to prosecute.
Right.
We're making an example out of Roger Stone, showing that we're not going to play.
Well, again, Roger Stone. The only reason why people are even talking about that today is because Roger Stone is making a big deal out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Roger Stone. There was also the conspiracy that CNN, who tipped off CNN to be there for the arrest, not understanding that CNN is such a thorough. But not, and then Trump retweeted it. Then Trump repeated it, not knowing that. And CNN immediately responded by saying, listen, we've known since yesterday, and we've been keeping an eye on Roger Stone, and we saw some suspicious activity yesterday. And like any other news organization with resources to do so, we decided to camp out at his house and see what happened. And lo and behold, something happened. And so but let me just finish the point. Let me just finish the point to wrap up your point. Yeah, Roger Stone. Everyone's complaining about them kicking his door down, and you're so right. No knock warrants are for a reason. They usually occur when white collar crime is involved because you don't want them being able to turn on the shredders. What we learned from when folk like Gordon Gekko and others, the Wall Street criminals of the 80s, that's the one thing law enforcement learned from white collar criminals is that you never give them a chance to shred documents and destroy evidence because most evidence of white collar crime is electronic in today's world, and paper, and those things have to be preserved as best as possible. So you got to catch them by surprise in order to capture the evidence that you suspect you can. And that's typical law enforcement. It happens to white collar criminals all over the country. And again, it happened to Manafort and Cohen, and it will continue to happen. But before we...
Well, here, let me just interject one thing about Greta Van Susteren, because she was the one who started all of that bullshit, formerly with Fox News. And what was so disturbing about her tweeting that is that she's a lawyer, and her beat on CNN, her show was about cases in court, like high-profile cases in court. And what is disturbing about her pushing some sort of stupid-ass conspiracy docket system works and why reporters might have seen that suspicious activity and acted upon it by staking out Roger Stone's house.
Well,
and it's not only that, Loveless, she's an attorney. She knows how the system works. And she also knows that reporters stake out those courtrooms, those court documents, like a boil of hawks, man. They're in there and they are keeping a watch on this stuff so that they can roll with the story if it happens. Not only does she know that, but she probably benefited from her own reporters staking out courtroom activity like that. And so, which leads me to believe.
And they have police scanners. And, you know, they have I mean, listen, Beth.
That leads me to believe that she's got over 1 million followers on Twitter, and that's why I think she tweeted that out specifically to mislead her audience and to get all of the rumor mongering and conspiracy theory going, you know, in her like wackadoodle right wing following. And sure enough, it happened. And then the president retweeted it, and all the conspiracy theorists retweeted it. Loveless. It just makes me crazy. And so now, of course, she's trying to backtrack because she considers herself an actual serious journalist. And if she ever wants to work again, and I guess she figured she was going to try and walk it back, but that's not going to work. Anyway,
all I can
to like expand upon that because it was really disturbing to watch a member of the media stoke the fire of conspiracy theory like that on Twitter. She walked it back, but
well, all I can say is that it's bullshit, and this attack, this right wing and Republican attack on the rule of law, things that you never thought you'd hear Republicans attack about criminal behavior and exposure and holding accountable criminal behavior. Now that the top of their ticket is a bona fide criminal enterprise, all of them, like, it's amazing to see the Republicans contort themselves to attack the rule of law when it is holding Trump and his criminal enterprise accountable. It's like the cult is so weird that way. Like, when did Republicans start hating the rule of law? I don't understand. But we got to just stop for a minute and say thank you to everyone who is here. You're on Call of Reason's special Friday CTR on the side edition, because two big stories today. Number one, we just discussed ad nauseum Roger Stone indicted on 7 counts, and we're going to move on to the government shutdown now being over. But before we do, we want to pause and thank our sponsors. Keishi, the Zuni Connection, right there at 227 Don Gaspar in Santa Fe, and keishi.com. They sell amazing jewelry, fetishes, kachinas, paintings, all kinds of Zuni, original Zuni arts and crafts. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Just one of a kind, fair priced, fair sourced, fair trade, and you're feeding families of the Zuni Pueblo when you support Zuni, when you support Keishi, the Zuni Connection. Go to keishi.com. That's KESHI.com. And right there at 227 Don Gaspar in Santa Fe. Gotta love the stuff. You won't regret it at all. Y'all check them out and also support their foundation, the Keishi Foundation. They support maintaining the arts of the Zuni Pueblo and keeping it alive through training young people and getting other people outside the Pueblo our hands on it too. You're gonna love it. The Keishi Foundation.org. And I'd also like to thank our new podcast sponsor and our new radio show sponsor, Legacy Pawn, right here in Santa Fe. Y'all check them out. I know the government shutdown just ended, but if you are a government contractor and you need to figure out how you're going to make up for that paycheck and you got a few things sitting around that might have some value for you, and you're in the Santa Fe area, and Beth, I just discovered that New Mexico actually was the most affected state in the union for the government shutdown. We were number one. And so if you need to sell some stuff to make ends meet, go down and see the good folks at Legacy Pawn right here in Santa Fe. You won't regret it. Beth, the government shutdown now is over. Donald Trump came out again when I saw the news today. When I saw Roger Stone got indicted, the first thing that crossed my mind was, now I wonder what Donald Trump is going to do today now to try and take the attention off the fact that his main puppeteer, the one who's had his hand stuck up Trump's ass this entire time, moving his mouth, uh, like he has with so many other Republican presidents, how Donald Trump will react. Well, the reaction was that, today probably be a good day to end the shutdown. And I'm going to walk out here and basically cave entirely on the entire thing and leave the nation and my cult members wondering what the hell this past 35 days have been all about, since basically we're right back to the exact same place we started, which was a continuing resolution until this a certain amount of time. And then we would discuss border security and immigration reform while the continuing resolution was in effect, and with the goal of agreeing on legislation we could pass to fully fund the government and just go back to our normal procedure and be ready to deal with the debt ceiling in March. And so, I mean, what can you say, Beth? It's Trump caved. Nancy Pelosi basically showed Trump the real art of the deal. And he got nothing except fully embarrassed. Ann Coulter immediately said George H.W. Bush is no longer the wimpiest Republican president in history. That was her response within like a minute. And Trump made this grand announcement to basically say the Democrats had won. And he had to give it up, and he was going to, and of course I don't know if it was the Roger Stone indictment or the fact that 2 and 3 airports had to go to a ground stop because of air traffic control issues. I mean, what do you think?
So I don't think it was the Roger Stone indictment.
Okay.
I think it was LTA shutting down and 2 other airports, I think.
One in Florida and
there's several things going on at once here. Number one, Speaker Pelosi is brilliant because she's figured out how to deal with Trump when no one else could.
Mm-hmm.
She figured out, I'm gonna take things away from Trump that he actually fucking cares about. One of those things is golf, because Trump, not that she personally took that away from him, but he can't go to Mar-a-Lago and vacation on the weekends if people are not, if government workers are shut down and not earning their paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
And unequivocally, I think that everybody in the White House staff said, we're all going to quit if you do that because we can't talk you out of that. I think that there was probably a mutiny in the staff where they just said, fuck you if you go to Florida. And so I think that's why he stayed home for 35 days, and it's probably the longest stretch of time he's ever gone without golfing in his life. So that's one. Number two, she took away the pomp and circumstance of State of the Union. He's probably been looking forward to that since the last one. He's been looking forward to that shit for a year, Loveless. He loves that shit. He wants to sit in the people's house in Congress and stand there behind the podium with, drooling Vice President Pence, behind him, like salivating over every word he's saying. Then with Nancy Pelosi, the speaker, sitting behind him, probably like kicking her leg and, like not being able to hand it, doing everything she can to stop rolling her eyes in the back of her head after every sentence that he lives for that shit. And everybody having to stand up and applaud him, at least everybody in his party. He loves that shit. And she's
to fly.
down LaGuardia.
Right.
That is why he caved, was when, and it happened right after LaGuardia shut down. So this Roger Stone stuff he doesn't give a shit about.
Well, I found it interesting how quickly they threw Roger Stone under the bus. And again, folks, if you haven't already, please go to Netflix. And because not only will what happened today make sense to you, but everything that's been happening since Donald Trump came down the escalator for the first time, that it'll all make sense to you. The words that come out of Donald Trump's mouth, all the words, his tactics, the way he lies, right? Roger Stone got Donald Trump to run as a third-party candidate in the 80s for president. He's been revving up and grooming and preparing Donald Trump to be the president for 30 years. It took him to get Donald Trump into the White House. Donald Trump as president is a pure concoction of Roger Stone's imagination that he manifested from scratch. Why did he do that? Because number one, he knew that Donald Trump was so void of morality. He was in fact so amoral that he would not only do whatever it took to win the presidency, but he would do whatever as president. He would do whatever as president as well. He's so lacking of moral foundation or compass that he would do anything. He would be as corrupt as needed as president as well. And Donald Trump has lived up to those expectations perfectly. He's mimicked every word of Roger Stone's insane mind. And folks, go to Netflix and watch the documentary Get Me Roger Stone, and you'll see it for yourself. It'll open your eyes.
We need to go over one other little thing about this humiliation that Trump has experienced today, and that is the fact that there were two bills to stop the shutdown yesterday in the U.S. Senate, and one was a Republican bill, and one was a Democratic bill. And the other thing that broke Trump is the fact that the Democrats' bill won the most amount of votes. None of them won, but the Democrats' bill did, and 6 members of the Republican Party on the Senate side actually crossed party lines to vote for the Democratic bill.
It actually got a majority. The Democratic bill actually got a majority such that had it gone to the floor, had it gone to the floor, it would have passed. And that's the point. And so when Trump got that signal, yeah, you're right. Those votes definitely had an impact. I definitely think the airport chaos today with the air traffic controllers had an impact. But I do believe the Roger Stone indictment also had an impact because keep in mind, as I keep saying, the criminals who've done all this know what they did. Donald Trump knows what he did. So every time we get a breadcrumb, every time we get one extra little drip in this Chinese water torture we're having to deal with waiting on this shit, when that happens, Donald Trump knows for certain how close that is to the bullseye. He knows.
Well, one interesting thing though about our show on Sunday is that Metcalf, our common sense conservative, is going to be joining us, and he actually worked on the campaigns and knows pretty well Senator Johnny Isakson from Georgia, who was also one of the 6 members that crossed party lines and voted for the Democrats' bill.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so
that's good news.
So it's going to be exciting to have Matt back on, and all I can say is that we're going to have a great in-depth talk on Sunday, mostly about. We're going to go over what happens over the remainder of the weekend to clean up the shutdown, but we're going to spend Sunday doing a deep dive on where we are with this Mueller investigation, how Roger Stone fits in, because see, you have, in order to have collusion, Beth, you have to have multiple parties. So if there were collusion with Russia, then logic would conclude that you must have Russian players in that collusion and American players. Again, last year, Mueller defined who the Russian players are and what they did. Now he's bringing the dots in to connect in and build the bridge to the American players. And Roger Stone now is the first one of them. Keep in mind, folks, when in your lifetime has the President of the United States has 6 of their top people, and now I think it's 8 of their top people be either indicted, convicted, or sentenced? 8 of their top people. That's not draining the swamp. That's filling the swamp with criminals to help run a criminal enterprise. And Trump is getting further and further isolated away from his criminal enterprise because all the players are getting locked up. And I'm going to say these 2 words one more time to remind everybody. Alan Weisselberg. When you hear his name again, it's going to be lights out for Trump. I'm telling you, because he is Trump's money man. He holds all the books. He's been their accountant, their chief financial officer. He's got full immunity, and his name hadn't come back up yet, which means they're not through talking to him. Several people are going to jail. What happened today, Roger Stone can come out of court and throw up the 2 victory sign like he's Richard Nixon. You know, he can do that all he wants to, and he can continue with the pomp and circumstance and the play acting and the posturing. But the truth of the matter is that he's going to jail probably for the rest of his life because they have him and way many others in this criminal enterprise dead to rights. So we're going to do a deep dive and break down all these different moving parts now to what's happening with Mueller on Sunday.
Let's remember too, Loveless, is that I don't think that the Mueller ever has had Roger Stone in for questioning. I think that they just had enough evidence straight up to indict him on these 8 counts.
Well, what happened was the Congress referred suspicion of him lying to Congress to Mueller. Mueller looked into it and then started interviewing all the people around Roger Stone who could corroborate whether or not he was telling the truth or not. And then Mueller concluded that, yeah, based on all these other people that we have brought in to corroborate what Stone said, they proved he was lying by getting the people around him whose names he used while he was lying to confirm or deny what he was saying. And those people decided not to lie to the special counsel or the FBI. And so once he had enough witnesses put together telling the complete opposite story of Roger Stone, that's where there were 5 different counts of misleading Congress.
They're just going to continue their investigation.
That's my point. Listen. There's the collusion between WikiLeaks, the connection with WikiLeaks, all those things are, and then therefore the conspiracy to defraud America charges and other indictments, they're coming. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's no doubt about that. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And I look forward to seeing it. But we're going to do a deep dive on Sunday, y'all. Make sure you tune in because we're gonna talk about the aftermath of the shutdown briefly. We're gonna have 1 or 2 red pill reality checks, just of info that you just got to know outside of all this sensationalism. But we're gonna spend Sunday doing a deep dive into where we are with the Mueller investigation. We're gonna have on one of our common sense conservatives, Matt Metcalf, to give us the Republican and the right side of the aisle perspective on this. But based on reality, and I can't wait to dive into it. We're going to play a lot of clips.
And he's a never Trumper Republican,
Yeah.
so he hasn't drunk the Kool-Aid, but he's still very much a conservative. So it'll be interesting to have his point of view and hear the Metcalf minute. And I'm going to tell somebody who deserves it to shut the hell up. And you're going to do what?
I'm going to tell somebody who deserves it to sit your ass down. So make sure you tune in. Oh, we've got a great winner this week. Beth and I have a joint winner. He's so winning, we going to just choose him and we both going to win with him.
Awesome.
Yep.
Both of us are sending a big heart out to this one. All right, everybody. Well, have a great night.
Yep. Sunday morning, we'll see you 8 to 10 a.m. Mountain Time here in Santa Fe. That's 9 to 11 in the Central Time Zone, 10 to noon on the East Coast, and 7 to 9 on the West Coast. Call a Reason Reality Talk Radio on Talk 1260 and 1037 KTRC, Santa Fe's News Talk Leader. We're also live streaming at santafe.com. Video live streaming right here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Periscope is that Twitter feed. Y'all make sure you tune in Sunday. We'll see you. Until then, have a great Friday and a great weekend. We love you. Peace.
Peace out. Have a great weekend.
Oh, thanks again to Keishi, the Zuni Connection, and Legacy Pond. We love you too. Peace, y'all.
Thanks to our sponsors.
Okay, thank you, YouTubers. Thank you, peace.